I'm in my zone, on the road to the Super Bowl. Every game on the schedule crucial, it take a toll. It don't matter if we at home or on the road. You try to tackle, I'll truck a sucker and take it soul. I'm staring at 4th and goal, gotta find an open hole. A linebacker just close a hole where I'm supposed to go. So now I'm thinking my centers are all pro, so I trust he can make a walk for wherever the ball go. Tap the Q on the shoulder, that safety is coming over. I see that look in his eyes. If he slip, I'ma slide right under the tight end, curl over the right end. Long as the wide receiver block for me, I can jump right in. Yeah, there's 5 seconds on the play clock. The crowd was loud, but they stopped. Now it's silent while they watch. It's stand off in the red zone. All I see is red home. Watch me get this touchdown and this W and head home.
Welcome in, Cowboys Nation, to Week 3 Cowboy Game Day live here at Kanvas Sports and Social. Jesse, Holley, Skywalker, Steel. You ready, baby?
As ready as I'm ever going to be.
Hopefully we're a little bit more ready than the Cowboys were last week, but we're going to break it all down. Shouts out to Kanvas Sports and Social for hosting us again Week 3. It is always a great environment around here. No matter if the Cowboys win or lose, you still want to come out, check them out. Good food, good people, good vibes, and of course, you got us.
We're here.
You got us here.
The vibes are immaculate.
I say it all the time. Look, if you want to ignore everything, just watch me. I will entertain you during the game.
You are a sight to behold.
Yeah,
you are a sight to behold.
You have some fun one way or the other. But, hey, Jesse, we here, man. Week 3, Cowboys looking to bounce back. Before we get into everything, you've been a part of, unfortunately, a loss of that sort, right, on that side. But you've also been a part of having to build back up to come out the very next week. And I get it, it's Week 3, but these are important. All these games are important. Just kind of the psyche of a player when that happens to you, no matter if it's early or late in the season, and what you're building on or preparing for going into the next week.
You know, the first thing after you evaluate that film from that game, you want to first, self-diagnose, right? You want to self-scout and say, okay, what was my fault in that particular loss, right? Then we'll address that, and then you want to go to the team thing. And for the leaders of this team, you always look for those guys to kind of step up and galvanize the group. And then your coaches have to come up with the game plan. The biggest thing about what these guys dealt with last week is that when they go back and they watch the film and you really break it down to its bare minimal, it wasn't a lot of scheme. There was some scheme to it
Early. But after that,
there was a lot of guys, men, brethrens, people who you're supposed to be in the foxhole with, who had lackluster, and I'm being very polite when I say lackluster effort in assignment alignment football. And so those are the type of things that you want to get back on the practice field, and you want to kind of correct those things, and you want to see better effort from these players. And for your coaches, you want to make sure you hammer home, hey guys, like, we're professionals at the end of the day. There's certain things. It's one thing to go out there and say, hey, they just had a better day today. It's a whole other thing to go out there and say, we got our tails kicked.
Yeah.
And so you want to be able to address that, but that comes from the man in the mirror, and you just hope that you got 11 guys on offense, defense, and special teams, and practice squad guys and guys who are playing backups. You have all those dudes who want to be man in the mirror type dudes and correct those wrongs.
I do wonder if the coaches made a certain decision after looking looking at the film at one of those particular players.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we're about to read these inactives today, and let's get right to it. The name you won't see on there because they put him all the way inactive to the point where you're not going to see him for the next 4 weeks is Jordan Phillips. He was told his wrist hurt, and he said, no, it don't.
No, say it again. He was told his wrist hurt?
He was told. He didn't say my wrist hurt, coach.
He was told.
They said, your wrist hurt. What are you talking about?
You're like, what?
Yeah, what you mean?
Your wrist hurt.
Your wrist hurt. All right. Knocked on that door, put him IR.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you in 4 weeks, buddy. You will hope that pine do what? Change your mind when you get out there. That's what they're hoping for. And then a fellow defensive tackle who didn't look too good, like he was going to play this week, but came back in practice, I believe, Friday. Mozzie Smith. Mozzie is not only inactive, so he will be out there and hoping to have a better game than last week.
The great Charles Barkley talked about when he was playing certain guys. He said he would send a limo to the visiting team hotel because he wanted to make sure that defender made it.
He got to be here.
He got
They're
to
gonna
be
get here
here.
safe.
Yeah. So with Mozzie Smith playing, I don't know how he got to the game, but maybe Tyler Lindenbaum and the offensive linemen of the Ravens got together, put their bread together, and say, we're gonna send an Uber XL with police escorts to make sure that Mozzie gets to the game in one piece.
Is that the president? No, that's Mozzie.
That's Mozzie.
We just gotta make sure he get here.
Gotta make sure he gets here.
No surprises on the inactives, though. Andrew Booth, Buddy Johnson, Matt Waletzko, John Stevens Jr. started to get back in practice, but not ready just quite yet. Tyrus Wheat, and then Ryan Flournoy, who some thought maybe he'd get a shot because Brooks went out, or he was limited towards the end of the week. Brooks is fine. He'll play. So, in my opinion, nothing here surprising, and what you don't see here, if I move it up a little bit, Trey Lance. That's going to be your weekly inactive unless an injury happens. But he will be your emergency quarterbacks. So there's that. On the Ravens side, nothing surprising there. They're going to have all their horses today too. So it's going to be you're healthy, we healthy. No excuses out there today.
Right.
And both teams have a lot of pressure. The Ravens are coming in hungry, 0-2. The Cowboys are coming off of another embarrassing whooping. You know, remember that Cat Williams? You want chicken or whooping? And it's like the Cowboys can't ever just say chicken, whooping. And that's how they lose too many times in this fashion. And it has a lot of the fan base kind of like, oh, here we go again. But one thing they've done under McCarthy is they've bounced back.
Yep.
They've only lost, back-to-back games twice in this scenario, 12-2. When this happens, I don't know how many times Lamar and them lost 3 in a row, so you could be looking at immovable force and irresistible object, one
all
of those things.
Kind of stuff.
So somebody has to do something. And one thing that I do know about Lamar, they ask him to put that cape on a lot, and 9 times out of 10, especially against the NFC, he wears that cape proudly, and he gets it done. 20-1 against the NFC. I just wonder, is that because they don't see that type of player, except for like once every 4 years?
Yeah, I think so. I think because when you're talking about building a team, when the Cowboys are looking to build their team, they're not looking for a team to beat the Ravens. Their team is built to beat the Eagles, the Giants, and Washington, right? Like you build to win your division, and then you build to win your conference, and then you just say whoever else we have to play, we just want to be formidable enough that we'll go out there and we'll be able to compete against those guys. But when that level of a dynamic of a quarterback in Lamar Jackson, you just don't see every day. No. You don't see that ability, and he makes you play 11-on-11 football. A lot of times you can kind of drop other guys in coverage because you're saying we're not really worried about the quarterback that much. But in this situation, the elite running ability that is Lamar Jackson, you have to account for him. You have to take a guy out of what your scheme was to physically just watch him and spy on him for the duration of the football game. And then when he breaks containment, he's a home run hitter. Like, he's a quarterback, but he has home run hitting ability every single time the ball snaps into his hand. So you're just not used to playing that level of a quarterback with that type of running ability.
No, and one of the things that I talked about a lot on the show this week was you have to respect Lamar's ability to just take off in that RPO game. So what that's going to do, right, is going to hold your defense in. Mm-hmm. It's going to hold possibly your linebacker. Maybe even your safety is like trying to cheat out, and it creates that lane. And they have a guy who will take advantage of that this year in one Derrick Henry. And I'm not going to sleep on Justice Hill. I think they have a pretty solid Thunder Lightning, or one call it Thunder Lightning when you take into account Lamar Jackson. And, Derrick Henry started off hot in week 1, right? And then they kind of just was like, oh, forgot they had Derrick Henry after that. Week 2, not a great first half, but then in the second half, they started doing something that made me raise my eyebrows based off of how the Cowboys played the Saints. They started running Derrick Henry on the outside. Mm-hmm. And he got about 60-some of his 79 second half yards on the edges.
Yep.
And it wasn't anything special, Jesse.
Nope.
It was guard, center pull, guard, tackle pull, get a tight end out in front, and hat on the hat. So I've been saying this all week. The Cowboys defense is going to have to bring their hard hats and obviously bring that discipline back that they had in week 1. Because if not, you don't want to let Lamar or Derrick, especially Derrick Henry, get a runway out there on the corners who have shown they don't always want to get dirty.
And listen, which is understandable, right? Because a lot of times when you have a cornerback, whether that's Trayvon Diggs, whether that's Deron Bland or Jordan Lewis or whoever you have out there, Carson, when you got a guy who is 230 pounds coming around the corner. I don't want to get involved in that. I don't want to have to deal with that. Or now, last week you had a lot of pin and pulls, right? So tight ends pinning down. Here comes the tackle. Here comes the guard. And they're pulling. Here comes the guy who's 6'5", 6'4", 320 pounds. What am I going to do with that? Like, what am I going to have to do with that? My best bet now is I want to hold containment on the outside and wait for the cavalry to come and tackle him, because I don't want to get involved in that nonsense. And that's what the Ravens want to do now. The Ravens want to make it a muddy, physical football game where those cornerbacks and those safeties have to interject themselves into the play to make tackles. And they just feel like, in the words of Marshawn Lynch, I just over and over and over and over, until eventually till you break somebody's face.
Yeah, and they don't care if it doesn't work. I was having this. Oh, sorry guys. I was having this thought. When the Cowboys, it's not working on the ground game, they're like, whatever, we'll stop it because that's not what we do. The Ravens are legitimately committed.
Yeah.
They are committed to running the ball. So you can't just take a play off unless you're outscoring them so much to where you take away the run game. You have to be prepared down in, down out, series in, series out, because any given time, whether it's Lamar, Justice Hill, or Derrick Henry, they'll come at you. Oh, by the way, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. Those are the focal point. Those are the big three for me for this Ravens pass offense, which surprisingly has not been as explosive as it has been in the past. I believe only a handful of explosive plays. Oh, look at this here. This Eagles-Saints game is wild. What a finish. So they'll have to worry about, for me, Isaiah Likely, who I think is a sneaky big play waiting to happen if you kind of get lost in the sauce with Zay and Henry and Lamar Jackson. I low-key would like to see them play a little bit matchup with him with somebody like Wanye. I feel like Wanye Thomas would be a really good guy to match up on him. But we'll see, because Zimmer doesn't normally play three safeties in that manner. But they're going to do the same things the Saints did, Jesse, which is tight 12 personnel, condensed formations. Sometimes they'll spread you out as well. They do a lot of different things, different looks in the backfield, pistol, that kind of wing tee looking type of situation. They're creative in that sense, but they don't really do a lot of creative things pre-snap. They're not going to motion you to death.
Right.
They're not going to make it look cool and flashy like the Kubiak Shanahan type stuff. They're just going to try to run right over you, and when you commit, that's when they'll go to Andrews and those boys in the pass game.
And I think that's fearful. I don't want to use the word fearful because I don't have to go out there and tackle anybody. Right. But that's one of the things that concerns me about this Cowboys defensively, because to your point, the Ravens aren't trying to pretty this thing up.
Nope.
They're not trying to give you window dressing. They're not trying to have you fall for the banana in the tailpipe. When they line up, they're saying, I'm going to punch you in the face. Over and over and over and over again, to use the words of Bane. I want to see what breaks first, your spirit or your body. Like that's what they want to see. They want to see just how much you're willing to commit, and that is a valid question when it comes to the Cowboys, because one of the things that the Cowboys have lacked overall as a unit, as a culture, as a team has been toughness, has been physicality.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there are players here and there who bring that. But as a total unit, as a total uniform, the Cowboys offensively or defensively aren't a physical unit. They don't necessarily come off as a team that wants to punch you back when you punch them.
You got to punch back against this team.
And the Cowboys, and this is not me being rude or disrespectful, but at times they're front runners, right? When they get out and they get a lead,
they are front runners.
Like when they get a lead and they get things going, now everything works well for them. But when they get punched in the mouth, like at times. Not at times, most of the time when it happens to them, they nut up and they go, I don't know what to do next. And so this is what I want to see. I want to see, you were embarrassed last week at home in front of your fans. Now you have to come back in and get into another back alley street fight.
Yeah.
Are you willing, as a unit, as a collective, as a totality of a team, are you guys willing to step up to the challenge? And when they punch you, because Baltimore is going to punch you, are you going to take the punch and then punch back, or just say, no mas, and just keep getting beat on for the whole duration of the game? And
the Chiefs and the Raiders, not saying that there's any type of blueprint or what have you, but they were able to punch back.
Yeah.
Right? They did meet blow for blow with Baltimore. Now, it's not like these games were blowouts or anything, so it was one of those games where they had to nut up, right? They had to meet the same energy that Baltimore was bringing going back and forth.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to get to the other side of the ball in a second, but I do think Baltimore's offense is going to be the side of the ball that tries to set the tone.
Yes.
Years past, it was their defense, right? But I think with Lamar Jackson, with Derrick Henry, they're going to say, I just watched y'all last week, get bullied. When the game got, up, when they were up 21-6, they didn't do anything special. The Saints just bullied you, hat on hat. That's what the Ravens do. Nothing crazy. So can this defense punch back consistently?
And honestly, if we're just going off what we saw and we go off the numbers, the Cowboys last week gave up 472 total yards. 372 of those yards came before the Saints were touched, before contact.
That's crazy.
So you talk about the holes that were opened up and the lanes that were opened up. That means that there were holes that they were running through, and receivers were running and catching the balls without people around them. When you give up 372 yards before contact of the 432 yards that they had, that tells you all that about. And then you go to the PFF grade of the guys up front. Mozzie Smith, this is out of 100, right? This is like a test. 100 is the standard, is the high score. Mozzie Smith graded out 28.9. Jordan Phillips graded out 29.6. He won't be out there today. That's also concerning, because if he was your starter, then what the hell is behind him? And then Linval Joseph graded out 31.4. That was their overall grades.
And Osa said he had his worst game of his career.
And so these are the guys that you have to march back out there this week. It's like you're not getting some help coming back from injury, or you brought in Carlos
Watkins, but he didn't get called up.
Right, and so that's right. So he didn't get called up, and so now you're putting back out.
I'm sorry. I actually think he's on the roster.
He's on the roster.
They just threw a pick.
These are the guys who you have to march back out there again. Are they willing to step up and meet force with force in this game today? Last week they did not. We'll see what happens today.
Yeah, and you just talked about the defensive tackles. The edge guys are going to have to be on their game today too, as we mentioned. And it looks like the Eagles are going to walk away with this victory here after picking off Derek Carr. Isn't it funny?
Of course they will.
Isn't it funny how this works, man?
Of course they would.
The Saints come out and look unstoppable against the Cowboys. The Eagles defense punches back and gives them a chance to win the game, and they go down there and win the game. Damn it! Come on, Saints. Leave them root for y'all after that. But anyway, so we talked about the defensive tackles. I feel like the edge guys are going to be big in this game as well. And I know this is going to sound crazy, because you look at an MVP quarterback, and I use that respectfully, Lamar. I don't think he should have won last year. But that's really, you want to really put the game in his hands. You want Lamar Jackson to have to play superhero. Granted, he's done a fantastic job at doing that in his career, but if you can't stop the run in this game, it could get ugly defensively. Now, offensively, we'll switch to the side in a second, but defensively, it could get ugly. So you got to turn them into a one-dimensional team and then make Lamar Jackson play hero ball, because he does throw some turnover-worthy plays to you, and then that's how you get that momentum back defensively. And we know the Cowboys have guys on that side ball that can do it. So first thing, they have to stop the run. Tell Lamar Jackson to drop back 35, 40-plus times in this game. And I feel like then, now we're on an even level playing field. But until they show me they can stop the run, I don't think you can call it anything even level, at this point.
But my question to you is, what method would you go with? Knowing what you know and the personnel that you have, if I'm Mike Zimmer, what am I saying to what am I saying to myself? What am I saying to my team? What plan am I putting together to go, all right, guys, this is going to be what we have to do to stop the run?
I think they're going to roll out base again, I think, like they did last week. It was terrible. They weren't great in it. But if they're going to come out in a lot of 12, which they run a lot of 12, they don't run a whole lot of 11.
Right.
The Ravens, that is, you're going to have to just, again, be more physical in them. You're going to have to meet them with the same punch they're going to give you. Now, when they do roll out in that 11 personnel, that's when they like to do that RPO game or that read option game, where, okay, what are you doing defensive end? So now I'm going to need my DeMarvion Overshown, Eric Kendricks, or maybe it's Micah back there to hit Lamar Jackson, when you can. Granted, he really don't care, but you're going to have to be ready for it. Again, it's nothing crazy that they do.
Right.
You just have to be prepared to match that energy to to give yourself a fighting chance for 4 quarters.
And I said this on my shows this week when I talked about, Damari and Overshown seems to be the name of choice that people are using that kind of will spy on Lamar Jackson. And my biggest thing is, and I think Damarion Overshown is a fantastic player, but you've never seen the likes of Lamar Jackson, right? You've never seen that kind of speed in your career and the way that they use him, right? So like now it's not Deshaun Watson, right? And you're not coming downhill on Deshaun Watson. You're facing a guy now who can actually beat you and outrun your angles, right? You're facing a guy now who's very elusive, he'll put a little dead leg on you, right? He Florida boy. He'll put that dead leg Peter Warrick on you and go back the other way. So for those type of guys, and again, still understanding and growing in their knowledge of the game, those are the type of things that I look at for Overshown, for Maris Lewis and those young guys is, don't find yourself thinking. Allow yourself to play. Because if you're thinking you're a step slow, Lamar Jackson outruns that angle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you got to be on top of your game. You got to know what you see, and you have to be in the proper place, because when they do run that RPO and he takes that thing out of the stomach of Derrick Henry or Justice Hill or Rashard, whoever they decide to use in that particular manner, that you got to be ready to go right now and get him before he gets going. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's going to be a lot put on these young players. Do I think they can do it? Yes. But you got to do it all the time, because the one time you don't do it is the one time that you see his brake lights running by you.
Bottom line, this defense has to bounce back this week. If they do not, I don't think they'll have a chance. So they'll have to bounce back. That's it. There's no science to it. They got to bounce back. Let's get to my pick'ems this week, man. Brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Speaking of bounce back, it's not just the defense I got to bounce back. I got a couple offensive players that are the offense has to bounce back, and it's going to start with these two right here. Higher or lower, Cowboys Nation, you can play, but before you decide you want to play, use your projections to win real cash by playing on the #1 fantasy sports platform at Underdog Fantasy. Reminder, use our code ATOZDALLAS for a deposit match up to $1,000 when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy. The link will be attached in our description. Pick them, watch them, win them. Higher or lower, it's going to be up to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. This is a Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb game to me, especially given that the defense for the Ravens has been very suspect against the pass. So I went with higher for both of these guys, but Cowboys Nation, let me know in the chat. Jesse, you let me know how you feel about this. Dak Prescott, 251 passing yards at home against the Baltimore defense, who you would think years past, I don't know. This year, 32nd against the pass. I got higher.
Oh, 100%. And if it's not higher, we're in trouble. Like, this has to be, we sometimes talk about when it comes to Dak, hey, buddy, we don't need you to be.
Oh, we need you to be.
We don't need you to be Superman. We need you to be Superman today, my boy. Yeah. Like you gotta, loosen up the tie, unbutton the shirt. Superman is alive. Like we need you to be Superman. So that's and not only that above. I'm talking about way above. Yeah. Like I'm talking about way above.
I agree. CeeDee Lamb, higher, lower, 78.5 receiving yards. I again went with higher. We saw he can take a 15-yarder and go 60. So, and this Ravens secondary has given up big games against the #1 wide receivers. Whether it's the Chiefs or whether it's the Raiders, I don't think they play a lockdown man coverage, and I also think they're very loose in their zone so far this year, trying to figure it out with Zach or the new defense coordinator. So I got higher.
Again, what was the when he was holding out? What was that, like the Black Spider-Man? The CeeDee Lamb, was it the Venom?
And by the way, we saw him holding out, cost the Cowboys last week. We came out and said, hey, that was miscommunication on my part, and he said it was camp. Right. This is my camp now. And I'm like, damn, you shouldn't say that.
But, I mean, that's not his fault. That's Jerry's fault. Y'all should have paid the man, which I was going to pay him in March or April or May or June. Anytime before training camp started. Higher. When I say higher, I mean the same thing. If Dak has to be Superman, then damn it, he got to be the Dark Knight, right? Like, CeeDee got to be, pick another superhero. Like, he has to be that. He has to go out there and say, I am him. Right? Like, I've been him, I am him. If the Baltimore Ravens would run to the ticket booth right now and say, if all he's going to get is 78 yards, they'll take that. Like, CD has to be in the 150, 170. He has to have one of those type games. You got it today. He and Jake Ferguson have to be fed until they throw up.
And that's a big one, too, we're going to get to in a second. But you're absolutely right. This has to be the Cowboys' big three 100%. On offense. And then I went higher with Lamar Jackson, 273.5 yards, passing and rushing combined. And I went higher because one of two things. Either if they are, unstoppable this week, he's going to have more than that. Yeah. If the Cowboys are forcing him to go blow to blow, he's probably going to have more than that. So I think these ones, Cowboy Nation, you win some money here if you go use our code ATOZDALLAS at Underdog Fantasy. I got a higher for all three.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Lamar Jackson is the force multiplier. I think he can do it on the ground, and then he. When you look up, you go, dang, he threw for 175 yards. He threw for 205.
Rushed for 120.
Yeah, so that's the type of thing that Lamar Jackson brings. And again, if we don't have an answer for him on the ground, that means safeties have to come up, linebackers have to come up, and that's when you get the Isaiah Likely, that's when you get the Zay Flowers, that's when you get the Mark Andrews over the middle, where he goes out there and he finds them, they make the plays.
Indeed, man. That's Underdog Fantasy. Pick them, watch them, win them. Now, the reason why me and you are both talking about Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson, let's just keep it a bean. That's can't run on the Ravens. Like you really shouldn't even overdo it with that, right? Maybe you have to stay balanced. I totally understand you can't go out here and throw it 45, 50 times. And so for me, it's not even about just running to hit a number. To me, it's about running to set something up. Whether it's the play action boot, whether it's, hey, this is like a run action, I got a screen. There needs to be a purpose today, and there needs to be one every day, Cowboys Nation, but I don't have confidence in the Cowboys actually having a purposeful run game. But if there was a day to be purposeful, it is today, because this run defense of the Ravens is very good. And I don't mean it's fluky good. It is very good, averaging 2.3 yards per carry to running backs of the season so far, Jesse. I don't really see that changing given how we block it, how we run it, and who's in the backfield for Dallas. But, hey, you never know. A broken clock is right twice. Maybe this could be it, but I'm not sitting here acting like the Cowboys' run game is an advantage going into this one. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely not. I think the Cowboys, your run game has to be the extension of the short pass game.
Yeah.
What we call long handoffs,
long
right?
handoff.
So we got to be able to say, hey, lining up in the I formation and saying, Zeke, we're going to run you in the A gap. Like, that's just not a formula for success. What it's going to do is you're going to find yourself in second and third and long. And again, the percentages say you find yourself in enough of those downs, it makes it very hard for you to be successful in that. And when you put on the film last week, the Cowboys, they had 71% of their run plays came in a light box. 71% in a light box, and they averaged 3.2 yards a carry. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like that puts you back on 4th and 1, 4th and 2. So you're not, even with the light box, even when you have the advantage of not having 5 blockers versus 4 blockers, like they just weren't able to go out there and have success in that. So they're going to have to find ways to, hey, screen game, hey, bubble screens, hey, smoke screens, all these type of things, rolling Dak Prescott out. We talked about Dak Prescott using his legs, pocket, and I know that we got Lamar Jackson, but hey, if you want to tap into that Lamar Jackson toolbox, Dak, today might be a good day for you to get 40, 50 yards running the football because you got to find yards. You got to find yards on the ground, and to make them, the linebackers and the safeties have to respect the running game or the long handoff some way, somehow. If not, they're going to just continue to rush 4 or 5, drop 6, 7 guys in the coverage, and now make you have to figure that out.
Yeah, what you said about Dak using his legs, Dak even brought it up. He said, maybe I could have bailed from the pocket, more often. I think what is happening, what I'm noticing in the last 2 years under Mike McCarthy's system, is they are truly just being systematic. Like, to start the season, hey, man, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. Just get rid, as opposed to playmakers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if it ain't there, make a play. It took 6 weeks for Dak to be like, F it. Or Mike to say, hey, Dak, just go ahead and create off script. I feel like they're trying to stay on script so much that we're missing out on some of these plays that you see other teams moving around. When Dak started moving around, what happened? Took off. Yep. The entire offense took off. So I think today is one of those days, and I don't know if we said this, I said this behind the scene, or I might have said this here. I did say it here, actually. Apologies, Cowboys Nation. the pass defense. You watched the same film I watched. The Ravens' pass defense has not been great this year.
Right.
And, I watch it, and it looks very loosey-goosey. When they're in zone, they're not as tight in man. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Dak to move around the pocket and make something happen. And that's, in my opinion, how you're going to have to win this game. It's not going to be running the ball. And if you're going to run it to set it up. But this is one of those games where, okay, like you said, Superman, they put the cape on Lamar, then you have to match that energy and put the cape on. They don't have a CeeDee Lamb on that side of the ball. They got a Jake. Jake, you got to match Likely and Andrews, right? Look, maybe Zeke says, man, y'all been talking about that Derrick Henry mess for years. I got to match. Just saying, right? Like, you got to have that energy. I don't care if it's Zeke giving me 10 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown. I take it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just need these boys to match them blow for blow. Because we know how it is when teams come to Dallas, man.
And it's one thing that I also kind of that I personally hate, and this is the philosophy that the Cowboys have gone to this year, the running back by committee thing. Like, I've always hated anything by committee. Like, I really
Cowboys ain't had no success with either.
Like, I just like, because like sports it's rhythm, right? And when you're pulling me off the field, I don't get a chance to get a rhythm. And you talk about running backs, there's been whispers coming from the Cowboys locker room where all of the running backs are like, man, we ain't with this. We ain't like Rico, Zeke, even Deuce are like, bro, we ain't really with this whole run by committee situation thing. Like, we know we gotta do it, but we ain't really feeling that like that. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we want to go out there and those guys want to get alive. They want to get something happening, because if I go in the first series and now you're going Zeke, Rico, Deuce, then you come back to me on the fourth series, so I got to find that rhythm again. So I think you got to figure out a way to go, hey, if we're going to try to have some sort of remnants of a run game, I got to go one guy. And now I can give a guy a breather, but this whole running back by committee thing, I've never been a fan of it, and it's not working for the Cowboys overall either.
I'm an advocate for duo approach / committee approach, but there's context that has to be added to that. Like, the way the Cowboys do it, I don't think can work. I've watched Baltimore had a duo approach when they won their Super Bowl back in the day, Ray Rice and McClain. The Giants did the committee. Was perfect. With Brandon Jacobs, Ahmad Bradshaw, and there was a couple other guys that would come in and out there. The Patriots do the committee approach perfectly. But you know why? There is a purpose.
Yeah.
They're not just like, all right, it's your turn, you go run it. Okay, right. No, there's a purpose to it. Hey, Danny Woodhead, James White, you're a guy we're going to dump the ball off to. Blount, you're a guy we're going to hand the ball off to, because when it start kind of going into that area of, hey, you need more than one guy. This league is no more just one. If it is one guy, there's only like 3 of them in the league that do it. You need at least 2, and if you're going to run 3 out there, then one or two things have to happen. You got to have a damn good offensive line, or you got to have a scheme.
Yeah, but you're talking situational football. Like, that's what you're talking. Like that's situational. Like, it's like, hey, Blunt, you're going to run first or second down, and if we get to a third down, we have to pass the ball, then Danny Woodhead or White, you're a guy that we're going to use. That's situational football right there.
Sure.
Those guys aren't saying, all right, hey, you got the first series,
exactly.
You got the second series. Like, that's committee. You're talking situational football, which I'm totally fine with,
sure.
Right? Because now everybody understands their role. These guys don't know what their role is going to be week in and week out. Because if a guy gets hot, it's like, if I get hot in the first series, am I coming out for series 2 because you told Zeke or you told Rico that he had series 2, and then now you got to go?
And I think that's a Cowboy problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm with you.
And I don't like it, because I'm all for situational rotation opposed to running back by committee in the way that they do it.
I think the committee thing is weird, because Deuce only has 5 carries in 2 games. So it's not like he's getting a ton of touches in this situation. They've done a duo approach, and it's been successful before. Zeke and Tony Pollard was successful when they ran a duo approach. But it was more purposeful, though, at that time, because Zeke, they still felt, was the lead guy. So what did Zeke do? He had lead type of situation. And Tony Pollard, it made sense when TP came in, because TP gave you that thunder lightning. So they've done this before. This isn't new. They're using committee, and they're throwing in Deuce's 5 carries, but let's be real, they're not even really using Deuce for real like that. And it's not working, because there's no purpose to it. They've completely thrown out any purpose to this run game, whether it be the schematics, whether it be with the, how, like, hey, I would even settle with what you're saying. You know what? the first 3 possessions, we're going to roll with whomever the hell it be, right? The second 3 possessions, we're going to let these guys flow in that manner. But at the end of the day, after I remove that aspect of it, I still don't think this room is good enough given the way they're doing it.
Right.
I just don't think you have that good enough room. You don't block well enough, and you don't have a scheme well enough to do this. So I don't know what the answer is. We were joking around about Dalvin Cook coming up. I don't know if that's the answer, but something does have to change in how they're approaching it because, yeah, you might get by today against a bad passing defense, but we've seen over and over and over you go into the playoffs one-dimensional and you can't win.
Yeah.
So they got to figure something out, and I don't got the answer, Sway.
And I think what you said, one of the points that you talked about is they can't block it up front.
It's been
no
bad.
matter what they do.
It's been bad.
Right? Like, and that's the thing is like you have no purpose, you have no creativity, and you don't have the dogs up front to dominate enough to go, it doesn't matter what we really do back here because these guys are going to give us 4 yards in a cloud of dust, right? Like they're not even blocking well up front. So like that's like 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. As if we don't have the room that are good enough to go and create their yards on their own, we don't have the creativity to do it. Oh, and by the way, our offensive line isn't able to establish themselves in the trenches up front. Like that's 3 swings and you're out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why you have the Cowboys, where they're at. Right now is that they're a bad rush football team up front because of all of the things that we just named.
And this is the week. I mean, you said it on Twitter. I don't think this is the week you want to try to be macho, right? And say, you know what, we gonna come out and pound our chest. Hey, I don't know if it's a sound plan. It might work, Cowboys Nation. It might come out here and run for $150. But I don't know if that's the plan you want to roll with, man. This secondary, to me right now, they got Kyle Hamilton, who I love. I think he's a great player, but they're playing him in the box a lot more. He's all over the place. Not Marshawn Lattimore, that was last one. I used to always get Marlon Humphrey and Marshawn Lattimore mixed up. Came in around the same time, I believe. Marlon Humphreys is not the same Marlon Humphreys as he's been in years past. Giving up a lot more catches this year. Has been getting beat. They got another kid on the other side.
Spending too much time on that podcast. No, I'm just joking. We ain't the only city that's worried about our best players.
But we the only city that talk about it. But no, he has not been that great. And their linebackers aren't covering it.
Well,
speaking of which,
go ahead.
Jake Ferguson.
Oh yeah,
I think this. We talk about CD. This got to be the Shaky Jake game, the Freaky Ferg game that says, I'm here, top 3, top 5 tight end, because they have been terrible against tight ends this year. Brock Bowers ate them up last week. Yep. The week before that, Kelsey and Noah Gray had like 70 yards. I think Jake Ferg, if you feature him, can get off today.
No, I'm with you 1,000%. Welcome back, Jake Ferg. Again, like I said earlier, this is the game right now where Jake Ferg, CeeDee Lamb, they should be fed so much the football, they throw up. They legitimately throw up. Like that's how much you should be focusing on them because they have the advantage. Like if you had to go, I would say I would take Jake Ferguson over anybody that's playing defense right now covering for the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm for sure taking CeeDee Lamb over anyone that has to cover him. Hell, just about anyone that has to cover him in the entire football league. Maybe some other guy that'll give it a little bit more challenge. But I like those 2 guys. And Dak has to go and find them. I want to push my narrative of Jalen Tolbert. Come on. Hey, young fella, this might not be your week, okay? You heard what Tom Brady said last week about Jalen Brooks. I wouldn't throw him for the rest of the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, this is one of those games. When you talk about desperation, this is when they got to have that conversation before the game. CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson and Dak Prescott, and he goes, listen, fellas, I need y'all today. I need y'all to get open. I need y'all to be precise. I need y'all to sometimes bail me out. Because sometimes I'm going to give you a chance maybe in double coverage. I'm going to give you a look back shoulder when the guy's right in your chest. But you got to make me right today because if we don't do it, I don't know how it's going to get done.
And my final thoughts on how they should is the how. I don't want them to – I love spamming Lamb, but only if you're being creative in doing so. We tried that early last year. Well, I shouldn't say spam, but it was a lot of basic type of concepts, and Lamb was getting frustrated, right? Dak and Lamb weren't connecting early on. Either were Cooks or what have you. I would like for them to creatively get him involved. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Jake Ferguson, because the problem is if you just flat out spam him in general, Kyle Hamilton you saw what happened last week with Tyrann Mathieu. Mm-hmm. Oh, y'all pressing? I know what you do when you press. You go to CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson, if all they're going to do is run him up the seam, which he's great at, and Dak is a seam god, they'll sit on that. So, kind of goes with the run game. you got to have a little bit of creativity in this pass game too, or as bad as they have been in the pass defense, if you make it easy on these dudes, it's still Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah.
It's still Roquan Smith. It's still Matabuke. It's still Kyle Hamilton. Don't make it easy, man.
Right.
Make it easy on your Q. Don't make it easy on the defense.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And you know, it's the battle of desperate teams right now. Who's going to come out here and be the most desperate football team?
Oh, yeah, and they're about to kick it off right now. So our final thoughts here. Cowboys win if. Cowboys lose if. Jesse Allen.
Cowboys win if they make Lamar Jackson turn over the ball 4 times.
Dang.
4 times. And while I say, I know that sounds like a lot. I know that sounds like a lot. But Lamar Jackson will give you a chance.
Yeah.
Like, in passing the ball, and when he's carrying the football back there in that pocket, he's very loose with it. When he's running with the ball outside on the edges, he's very loose with it. So, hey, DeMarvin Overshown, use that length. You got long arms. You got, you have the skill set. Micah Parsons, you got to be able to go and when you get around that corner, be able to go out there, strip sack, fumble that thing.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 times, the ball has to be turned over today if the Cowboys are going to win this football game. The Cowboys lose this game if they come out there and they do what they did last week defensively.
Yeah.
If you have no heart, you have no desire, if you have no passion, if you have no will, if you have no damn self-respect, and you just let them go out there and push you around and bend you over Diddy style with the oil, you're in a world of trouble. Like, this has to be a game with the Cowboys. It's a pride game.
Yeah.
Forget desperation. This is a pride thing. You got to say that man in front of me is just not going to whoop my tail all day. And that's the way that if they don't have that, then damn it, they're done. They are toast. Because the Ravens are going to try to come out here and play Raven football, which is a physical brand of football.
I'll keep it quick. Cowboys win if they get out to a fast start. They are a front-running team. They're one of the best front-running teams, and you just got to be honest with yourself. If they get up, they usually know how to win those games. The Cowboys lose if, flat out, the Baltimore Ravens play bully ball and bully you. If you get bullied by Baltimore, they'll lose this game. If they get out in front, Cowboys will win this game.
Cowboys get the ball
See
first.
y'all at halftime. Cowboys getting the rock right now. Get out.